tell us who you are and how is your new job as MP going?
So my name's Henry Tufnell, and I'm the Welsh Labour MP for Mid and South Pembrokeshire. And in terms of how the new job as MP is going, it's certainly going, and it's been a very quick transition, overnight transition to being the candidate to be the MP, and you're thrown in at the deep end, and you have to set up an office, employ staff, and all that's happening while you're dealing with issues, whether it's to do with casework issues from people in the constituency or people writing to you about specific concerns, whether that's environmental concerns or concerns around the economy or health, whatever it may be. And so you're sort of the best analogy that I've come up with is building a plane while flying it. But it's exciting, but it's all positive problems to have, but it's definitely taking a bit of time to transition.
Yeah, that's good. Can you tell us what Westminster is responsible for in Wales?
So this was a big thing that we had during the election campaign. So what Westminster is responsible for versus what responsibilities lie with Cardiff, with the Welsh Government. And there'll be health, education, transport, those issues sit within Welsh Government, but sometimes it becomes very difficult to tell the difference. And I think people generally find that, and I think I find that as well, because if you take transport, for instance, Transport for Wales is obviously run by Welsh Government, but Great Western Railway Services, which operates into Pembrokeshire, that sits within, they operate respective Department for Transport. So that's not, they don't operate within the scope of Welsh Government, but yet they're operating train services into Pembroke, well, not quite into Pembrokeshire, into Carmarthen. Sometimes they do operate into Pembroke Dock. But so trying to work with them to extend train services into Pembrokeshire, because public transport was a big theme during the election campaign, you have to think, okay, well, hang on a second, it's transport. You naturally think it's going to be run by Cardiff through the Welsh Government, but no, in this instance, you're working with Great Western Railway Services, working with those direct trains through Swansea, Cardiff and up into London. And if you want to make change within that, you need to start with speaking to Great Western Railway, but then also think about how that relates to the Department for Transport. So the honest answer is it's quite difficult sometimes to know. But if you look at immigration, for instance, that sits within Westminster, or policing, that sits within Westminster Justice. So there are certain issues that sit wholly in responsibility with Westminster, but then there are issues like transport which sit with Welsh Government, but then aspects of it aren't solely within their purview. Similarly with environmental, we've been having lots of issues with the Whittyhedge landfill site. Natural Resources Wales are the sort of the regulator in this instance. But again, there are regulations that govern the permits that National Resources Wales hand out, but those regulations sit with Westminster. So even in areas that you think are naturally devolved, there will be aspects of it that maybe sit with UK government and sit within that legislation to deal with. So it is a very complicated picture, and it's not straightforward by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah.
The public transport side of it.
Yeah.
But I don't think everybody understands that, do they?
And I think it's a big challenge for democracy generally and devolution, because we had this during the election campaign, the big thing a lot of the time is about funding, where the funding comes from. So a chunk of money comes from Westminster, and then it becomes about the Welsh Government to determine to decide where that money goes to, effectively. Yeah.
Okay. There are lots of people who are disabled, who haven't got paid jobs, who do want to have paid jobs. What are your thoughts on this?
Yes, so people that who are disabled, who haven't got paid jobs, who want those paid jobs, and that's a big part of the skills and trying to encourage people into work and providing that the ability of people to do that. So I've been talking this morning with an organisation called Planed, and we've been talking about how they allow the people to develop those skills and provide certification, so certificates, to say that you've completed this skill, and that gives you a level of in terms of vocational training. So vocational training is more about the skill and the long-term route to employment through learning that skill, and that's been the key part of what they've been trying to do. So supporting organisations like Planed, working with other organisations and trying to get the skills base there, and then try and work with employers as well. So employers to say, look, we've got lots of people who haven't got these paid jobs, who are disabled, and what kind of reasonable adjustments do we need to get in place within the workplace so that they can access that employment. And that's a big part of what we want to do in terms of encouraging people to get that to those jobs that they need and they want.
Yeah, that's good. How do you plan to make sure the voices of people with learning disabilities are heard in Westminster?
So it's really, really important. So I myself have a learning disability. So people with learning disabilities need to know that their voices are heard, and B, that there shouldn't be any barriers to them thinking that they can't achieve what they want to achieve. So I'm dyslexic. Obviously there's a scale in terms of that where there's disabilities. So I've got a cousin, for instance, who's quite severely autistic. But I think what the key thing is that we think as a society about how those voices are heard, and that it shouldn't become a thinking of them not being distinguishing them or being separate. We're all together, we're all part of the same group and the same society, and we want to achieve the best for everyone. And that's why I'm keen to try and advance the causes of people with learning disabilities, because I myself have one, but also thinking about my cousin, for instance, and I was supporting him at a triathlon down in Broadhaven recently, and he was managed to completed that, and it was amazing that he was able to, the organisers were really great about allowing him that opportunity and providing the facilities to enable him to do that. And I think we need to think about how in Westminster we can also do that, to allow people who have those learning disabilities to think that that's a way for their voice to be heard, and that they also can take their voice to Westminster or be that voice in that space or in the chamber.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Is there anything else you would like to share with us?
Just thank you very much for coming down. It's really great to speak with you again. I had the hustings with Pembrokeshire People First was really, really positive. It was a great opportunity to speak with many of you, and I've also visited down next to Pembrokeshire Frame down the site and had a chat with you there. So it's been really good to have that engagement as a candidate, and I really want to continue on with the engagement as an MP, and I just want to say thank you very much for coming today, and I really look forward to seeing you again soon.
Okay, thank you, Henry.
Thank you.
Yeah.